Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my respectful obeisances of glory to Prabhu. So you're welcome to today's SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM class. Today we're reading from SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, first canto, chapter 1, text number, first canto, chapter 17, text number 8. Our original speaker for today's class is supposed to be His Holiness Bhakti Damodara Swami. For reasons beyond his control, he couldn't make it here for today. So we'll have our dear Godbrother, His Grace, SAHADEV PRABHU, during the lecture today. So you're all welcome. So SAHADEV PRABHU.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, thank you.
If you're ready, then I can go. I can put this verse on the screen so that you can start.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, all right. So you may put the verse on the screen then.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayat Nashtaprayeshu Abhadrashu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatutamashloke Bhakti Bhava Itina Ishtaki. Hare Krishna. So we're reading from SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, Canto 1, Chapter 17, text number 8. Like His Grace Salika Prabhu indicated, I am stepping in for His Holiness Bhakti Damodara Maharaj because he couldn't be here today. He's in India. So please tolerate me. I know you came here looking for gold and now you're going to be getting some pebbles. So forgive me. So the Sanskrit verse Na jatu karavandaranam dodanda parirambite bhutale nupatanti asmin vinate praninam shujaha. Na jatu karavandranam dodanda parirambite bhutale nupatanti asmin Vinate praninam shujaha. Najatu koravandra anam dodanda parirambite bhutale no patanti asmin vinate praninam shujaha. Synonyms: na, not; jatu, at any time; Kaurava Indranam, of the kings in the Kuru dynasty; Daldanda, strength of arms; Parirambite, protected by; Bhutale, on the surface of the earth; Anupatanti, grieving; Asmin, up till now; Vina, save and accept; Te, you; Praninam, of the living being; Shuchaha, tears in the eyes. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Now, for the first time in a kingdom well protected by the arms of the kings of the Kuru dynasty, I see you grieving with tears in your eyes. Up till now, no one on earth has ever shed tears because of royal negligence. Now, for the first time in a kingdom well protected by the arms of the kings of the Kuru dynasty, I see you grieving with tears in your eyes. Up till now, no one on earth has ever shed tears because of royal negligence. Purport. The protection of the lives of both the human beings and the animals is the first and foremost duty of a government. A government must not discriminate in such principles. It is simply horrible for a pure-hearted soul to see organized animal killing by the state in this age of Kali. Maharaj Parikshit was lamenting for the tears in the eyes of the bull, and he was astonished to see such an unprecedented thing in his good kingdom. Men and animals were equally protected as far as life was concerned. That is the way in God's kingdom.
Please can you unmute, Prabhu? Sorry, Prabhu. Please can you unmute?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Oma Jana Timranda Sia Jana Jana Shalakaya Chakshirol Militam Yenatas Mai Shri Guravinamaha Shri Chaitanya Manabishtam Stapitam Yenabutali Swayam Rupakadama Yam Dadati Swapadanti Kam Vam Chakal Patarubias Chakra Pasindubia Evacha Patita Nampavanabio Vaishnavibio Namo Namaha Nama Ami Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Nityanamini Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shtatatmane Shri Guru Karuna Shakti Bhakti Ti Tatitnamine Nama Ami Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini. Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Uratve Namaha. Nama Brahmanya Devayago Brahmana Hitya Cha Jagat Detaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So the text again says, now for the first time in a kingdom well protected by the arms of the kings of the Kuru dynasty, I see you grieving with tears in your eyes. Up till now, no one on earth has ever shed tears because of royal negligence. Well, it's very interesting because anytime any devotee or every devotee speaks on the Bhagavatam, the most common statement the speakers make is that this is a very wonderful and important text or verse. And I cannot avoid repeating the same thing, that this is a very, very important verse in the sense that every single verse in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam is so important. In fact, Guru Govinda Maharaj used to say that every word in the Srimad Bhagavatam is so important, up to the point that if one wants to comment on a particular text, it may take him or her a whole lifetime, because just one word in the Bhagavatam means so much and has so many angles that the speaker may take to explain what he understands or she understands about the word. So this verse is talking about certain important things. One is that if someone is called a teacher in the classroom, he should first of all understand the responsibilities of bearing such noun. Teacher is a noun. And one should know the verb that goes along with the noun. So a teacher is one who teaches. And in order for one to teach, one should be in knowledge. So if someone calls himself a teacher and is not in knowledge, then it means that teacher is not a teacher, but a cheater. So Srila Prabhupada says, if someone teaches without knowledge, he's not a teacher, he's a cheater. And teacher and cheater all contain the same letters. You just have to scramble them around. And then you have a cheater and then the teacher. So it is that when one becomes an emperor, when one becomes a king, when one becomes the head of state, the head of a country, one should know the responsibilities of occupying such a position. One should understand the verb that goes along with the noun, being a leader. A leader means you lead. And if you're leading, you cannot sit at one place and lead. A leader means that you move and you lead the people. So if one does not know where he is going to, how can he lead? Therefore, if someone calls himself a leader and has no plan, has no foresight, has no agenda, then he ceases to remain a leader. But that was not the case with Maharaj Parikshit. And that is why it is said about the Kuru dynasty. You know, in this world, there is this common saying that to one whom much is given, much is expected. So if someone is a leader of a country, that means that it is a very, very high position. He is the most important person in that country. And because he is the most important person in the country, there is so much high expectations of him. So the Kuru dynasty is understood to be a very, very important dynasty in the sense that from the very person called Kuru, who was so powerful, all his descendants and the generations after him were all following suit. I mean, in modern science, we may say they all had the same genetic trait and genetic code. that made him very wonderful kshatris, very able rulers. So it was said that prior to the encounter between the bull, the cow, and Maharaj Parikshit, nobody had ever seen anybody in the entire kingdom of the Kuru dynasty crying because of leadership negligence. So prior to that encounter, whatever went on in the kingdom of the Kuru dynasty, if someone had to cry, maybe somebody lost a loved one, a dear one, and that person is crying, but it never happened that someone was crying due to negligence of leadership. So that is a very serious and very unfortunate situation, that a whole leader will fail the whole kingdom, the whole citizenry, up to the point that they feel dejected, they feel neglected. No. There is a long history of the Kuru dynasty. The Kuru dynasty is so important. And from that importance, we got the most famous battlefield called Kurukshetra. So Kuru means Kuru, the emperor, the king, Kuru. And Kshetra means field, because Kurukshetra was a place where Maharaj Kuru stayed and performed tapasya. And from such tapasya, he attained so much wisdom and unimaginable superhuman powers, up to the point that even the devas respected him and were afraid of him. So from Kuru, we had Kurukshetra. So the entire Kuru dynasty are all coming in the line of this Maharaj Kuru. And like I said, to one whom much is given, much is expected of him. And so because they were all descendants of this wonderful king, Kuru, they were all performing as good as the original Kuru. So from Kuru, we had other descendants who were all called Puru. So there were many of them. I think somebody needs to be muted.
I've done that already.
Okay, all right, thank you. So if one accepts a role, then it is expected of that particular person to play and function according to the expectations of the role accepted. There was one military soldier, American soldier, who was in, he was sent out to fight a war. And when he was on the battlefield, he became friends, he took friendship with some of the local people. And it got to a point that he actually sneaked out of his camp and started doing things like he was just an ordinary person, not a military man. And after a while, when the military officer saw that one particular person from the camp cannot be counted for, they started looking for him. And after some time, they found him. He was not in his uniform, and he was not acting as a military person. And so he was immediately sent back to the US. And actually he was punished. He was punished for abandoning his post. And so when one assumes a particular position, that person is expected to act as such. And so Maharaj Parikshit, being the emperor, the ruler of the entire kingdom, Srila Prabhupada explains that in those days, not in today's world, when one was an emperor, a ruler, he made sure that he took care of the lives of every living being in his domain. That means human beings, animals, plants, anything that has life was given protection by the emperor. So when the emperor saw the cow and the bull being mistreated, he had to punish the perpetrator. So if one calls himself a leader and finds any of his dependents being bullied, cheated, disrespected, and says nothing, does nothing, such a leader is unqualified to be called a leader, because he is accepting the role of being a leader, but he is not ready to act in that capacity. The first basic and most important principle in life is self-protection, because life is so dear up to the point that everyone wants to protect his or her own life. I was trying to explain this phenomenon to somebody just yesterday. I was explaining to this lady the reason why we ISKCON devotees are vegetarians. We are vegetarians because nobody wants to die. The animals are also some bodies. They do not want to die. And that is why whenever anyone wants to kill an animal, regardless of what animal it is, it could be a bird, it could be a fish, it could be chicken, it could be a lion, it could be a cow, whatever. That particular prey attempts to avoid the killing, attempts to avoid dying. But because we are human beings, we have higher intelligence and we have several tricks of catching these lower animals. We catch them and we kill them. But the fact is that they do not want to die. And so if I do not want to die, the animals do not want to die. When someone is trying to kill me, I try to protect myself. When I see someone trying to kill another person, I try to protect the person being killed. So why do I have to kill the animals? Why do I stay silent? Why do I sit silent when I see animals killed, slaughtered? And so Srila Prabhupada is explaining in the purport that when one is an emperor with mighty arms means that one is prepared to protect at all costs. And Srila Prabhupada explains that do not expect protection without causing some sort of harm. No, it's not possible. You know, Lord Chaitanya said that he is not a Vaishya, he's not a Kshatriya, he's not a Sudra, he's not a Brahmin, yet he's all of the above. And so for us as devotees, we are not karmis, we are not Kshatriyas, we are not Vaishyas, we are not Sudras, we are not Brahmins. We are above all these caste system. At the same time, We are all of the above. And so we act accordingly. When there is the need for us to act as Sudras, as laborers, as servants, to please the other varnas and ashrams, we do that. When there is the need for us to transact in business, in agriculture, taking care of the cows, tilling the soil, growing seeds, we do that. When we have to act as Brahmins, where we show compassion, we show cleanliness, we show empathy, we do that. And when we will have to use our arms, we have to protect, we also do that. So we act based on the need at that particular time, at that particular situation. And so we cannot say, because we are devotees, somebody comes to our temple and attempts stealing our deities. We say we are Brahmins, we are men of peace, and so we sit idle and watch our temple being ransacked. That would be stupidity. We act based on the situation. I remember some time ago, I was dealing with one devotee, and he was surprised how we were working like Sudras, you know? I mean, not just me, he himself was also included. And then it dawned on him, says, hey, Prabhuji, look, we are devotees, we are Brahmins. We have to be very clean, we don't have to touch any dirty thing, but look at us. We were on the field working. Brahmins are not supposed to be on the field to work. Srila Prabhupada said that his movement is to first of all help train people to become Brahmins, Brahmanical culture. And in the Shastras, Brahmins do not have to till the soil, but as Vaishnavas, we till the soil because we are all the above and at the same time, none of the above. We do not belong to any caste, we do not belong to any varna, we do not belong to any ashram. Yet, we belong to all. And so Maharaj Parikshit was a pure devotee of the Lord. He was pure devotee right from birth. Actually, in the womb of his mother, he was a pure devotee because he got the touch of the Supreme Lord himself. Actually, he died and Krishna revived him. And so since Krishna touched him in the womb of his mother, he was a pure devotee. And when he was born, there was predictions made about him. And all the predictions indicated that he is a pure devotee. And when he was being trained by his grandparents, he was acting as a pure devotee. And when he was acting as the emperor, he acted as a pure devotee. So Maharaj Parikshit, being a pure devotee, did not deprive him from chastising Kali, who was mistreating the cow and the bull at the same time. You know? So, Harichandra Prabhu oftentimes used to say, we have to learn how to avoid this holier than thou spirit we oftentimes carry with us. You know, oftentimes we want to claim so much holy than who we truly are. And what makes one holy? It is not just by sitting, closing your eyes, or reading scriptures, or speaking scriptures, or quoting verses that makes one holy. A holy man is one who makes sure that he does anything and everything within his might and power to help avoid others to go through any sort of suffering. And we were all here one time when Mother Rukmini spoke on this forum, and she said the same thing. She says, the prime duty of every devotee is to make sure that we relieve people of their problems. And so as devotees of the Lord, as Vaishnava devotees, as members of ISKCON, our prime responsibility is to make sure that we relieve the world of their problems. And how do we do that? We do that, one, by preaching. People are suffering because they do not have God. We read in yesterday's class when His Holiness Kavachana Maharaj spoke. He did emphasize on this, that no matter how much advancement we may have in this world or any material universe, those advancements themselves can in no way help anyone to be happy if the advancements are minus God, Krishna. And so the first principle is that let people have Krishna. Let people have God. When people have God, then everything else becomes so easy, so simple. We read from the previous verses how the Pandavas, when they retired timely, there was a time Arjuna, we all know how powerful Arjuna was. But it got to a point that Arjuna, a Maha archer, who the demigods, Indra, were all afraid of, he could not fight, excuse me my language, ordinary women. You know, the Dwaraka Varshis were given to Arjuna to be protected, and Arjuna could not protect them. Then he realized all the strength, all the power I had was not because I was such a powerful archer. It was not because I was so wonderful, I was so much loved by my teacher, Dronacharya, and I was so expert at shooting arrows, I was able to defeat all these great people. But it was because Lord Krishna was by my side. So first thing devotees will have to understand is to give Krishna to each and every one. We have to make Krishna so accessible that everyone in this world can have access to Krishna. Now, we may create the access for people to get to Krishna, but that also in itself will not help if we ourselves giving access to people to have Krishna are not living or doing what Krishna wants. Krishna is a person. I am a person. You are a person. You have your likes and dislikes. Krishna is a person. He has his likes and dislikes. And so Krishna has told us what he likes and what he doesn't like. And if we keep doing what he does not like, how do we expect him to like us? It's not possible. Like in the Christian Bible, Lord Jesus Christ taught the world how to pray. And he taught, he says, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. In other words, when someone offends us and we forgive, then when we also offend God, Krishna, then Krishna may also forgive us. But when someone offends us and we do not forgive, how do we expect God to forgive us when we offend him? It doesn't work that way. And so if we do not do what Krishna wants, how do we expect those we are preaching to do what Krishna wants? Because in life in general, people may listen to what we say, but it's only for 5 minutes. But people will do what we do till time indefinite if they see what we do to be what we say. And in other words, if we walk our talk, then it makes it very easy for others to also do the same thing. So here Maharaj Parikshit is giving us like a pattern, is giving us the standard as to how to behave as a leader. There are many levels of leadership. A parent is a leader, a teacher in the classroom is a leader, you know, a leader of a particular group is a leader. So there are so many leaders in so many different fronts. So once you assume that particular role, one should know the expectations, the responsibilities, and do them. If one cannot do them, then you either stay away for somebody else to assume that position to lead, or you yourself live up to the expectation. So leadership is a very, very difficult thing. You know, Srila Prabhupada says that a devotee is always under the protection of the Lord. And therefore, the assurance of protection by Maharaj Parikshit could never be without meaning. So Maharaj Parikshit has given assurance to all his citizens that I am going to give you protection. And Srila Prabhupada was saying in the purport that that is the prime duty of every leader of a society or of a state, of a country. And it's beautiful because every 4 years in the United States here, and as well as in many democratic countries around the world, when a president or a leader is voted to power, and in their victory speech, they always emphasize, my prime and first responsibility is to protect the country. So you protect the country from the sky, on the land, on the sea, from front, back, left, right. You protect your citizens. So when one is a leader of an organization, it is the responsibility of that leader to protect all members of the organization, of the movement, of the society. Of the society. Now, if someone is a leader of an organization, and then a member of the organization is being threatened or bullied, and the leader doesn't care about it, that leader is not qualified to call himself or herself a leader. It's not. And in order for a leader to be very influential and very powerful, he himself must be a practical leader. It's not a lazy armchair giving instructions leader, as we do have today. Many leaders in so many wonderful countries will give orders for people to go to war, and he himself is enjoying in his big seat None of his family members go to the war front. People go to wars, they die, they come back with PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. They never could get over all the atrocities they witnessed during the battlefield or the war front. Some come back amputated legs, with amputated legs, amputated arms, deformed, and the leader is sitting somewhere, full limbs together, but he is giving orders, go and fight. So in the ancient days, a leader will not command the citizenry to do things that he himself is not ready to do. And so those who are devotees of the Lord, they act. A devotee is identified by his act, not just by how much verses one can quote. It's nice, it's beautiful to know verses, to quote them. It's nice to know verses, quote them in Sanskrit, translate them in your local language. Beautiful. But all this beauty is short-lived if one does not live or practice what he or she is preaching. And that is why Srila Prabhupada is called an acharya. An acharya means one who lives what he speaks. Everything we know, everything we do in devotional service, in Krishna consciousness, in ISKCON, we're all taught by one person, Srila Prabhupada. He did not just say it. He did not just say, do it. And he went somewhere and was relaxing and resting. He said, go everywhere and preach. As old as he was, he circled the entire globe 5 times in his very advanced age. What's our age? How old are we? And what do we do? I mean, we are all comfortable sitting in one place and we call ourselves leaders, giving instructions to do this, do that, but we are happy sitting at one place. No, that is not the leadership Srila Prabhupada expected. What Srila Prabhupada expected is that every devotee attempts to go anywhere, everywhere possible, to give whatever little knowledge he has acquired and also show to the people how to do it. So devotees go on Harinam, they chant, they dance, they sing, and they show to the people how you can sing and dance and be happy. Now, when the devotees going out to sing and dance, go out there and they feel morose. Nobody even wants to chant. Nobody wants to dance. What are we saying? No, that's not going to be effective. That is not going to help anyone. It's not going to help anyone. It's not going to help anyone. So we all know this saying that when Krishna wants to kill you, who can protect you? And when Krishna wants to protect you, who can kill you? So Raksha means protection. Raksha means protection. And so one important Raksha we as devotees know is Go Raksha. Go Raksha means protection of the cows. The other day, we talked so much about the importance and the relevance of the cow in society. So if one understands how important the cow is to human beings, to society, to nature in general, then why don't we protect the cows? Why? Why don't we protect the cows? Well, we may not be able to protect the cows as much as we can because we are subordinate and inferior. Our strength gets nowhere against the government of various nations. Whichever country one may find himself or herself in, we as individuals are subordinate to the laws of the land. But at least we can live in our little way to exemplify how the cows can be protected. And in fact, Srila Prabhupada explains in, let me refer to my notes here because I just did this in my SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM class I'm taking with the Mayapur Institute. This was a class we just did yesterday. Srila Prabhupada was saying that we do not have to struggle to give like 100% protection to everything in society. But once we are able to give just 25% protection, because we live in this Kali Yuga, only 25% of the population try to be religious. But if even 25% of the population give protection to the cows, it's going to have such an important positive influence in the entire world that the whole world benefits. So in our own little way, we may not be able to influence, convince society in general to give proper care to the cows. But if us as devotees in our little way have our own land and are able to take very good care of the cows, then there can be peace in the world. The cow is a very, very important creature. We all know the story about Vasishtha Muni and Vishwamitra. Vasishtha Muni had a special cow called the Kamadenu. Kamadenu has a few names. Some call him Nandini. So Kamadenu or Nandini, this Kamadenu is a very special cow that if one has this cow, and in fact, it is said that all cows are descendants of Kamadenu. So there was a time Vishwamitra visited Vasishtha Muni in his ashram, and he saw this Kamadenu cow. And Vasishtha Muni was a Muni. He was living in his ashram. He didn't have much. All he had was the Kamadenu cow. But Vishwamitra visited Vasishtha Muni with a retinue of his followers. You know, he was a king at the time, and he visited Vasishtha with a whole retinue, a whole contingent of people. And when someone visits you, it is your responsibility as the host to feed your guests. And the guests were so many, Vishwamitra actually didn't know how Vasishtha was going to be able to take care of them. But Vasishtha Muni just spoke to Kamadenu, and Kamadenu provided all necessary foods needed to serve to Vishwamitra and his retinue. And so Vishwamitra became very amazed. He says, wow, I would like to have this cow. So he asked for the cow, and Vasishtha Muni said, no, I cannot give you this cow. Of course, we all know the story, how Vishwamitra forcibly attempted to take away the cow. Initially, he was trying to make sense with Vasishtha Muni that I will offer you so many cows in return to this one single cow. Vasishtha said no. And then he tried to forcibly take the cow. Vasishtha Muni is usually a very sober sage, but knowing how important that Kamedanu was to him, he said no, and he was ready to fight Vishwamitra. And initially, Vasishtha didn't want to fight. But he asked Kamedanu, what do you want me to do? Actually, Kamedanu asked Vasishtha, what do you want me to do? Just ask me, tell me whatever you want me to do. So we know from Kamedanu, the cow, human beings, military phalanx, out of nowhere, but from the body of Kamedanu, came out, fought Vishwamitra and defeated him. And that was what actually led to Vishwamitra aspiring to become a Brahmin instead of a Kshatriya. So when you have something or somebody that is very dear to you, you do anything, everything to give protection to that thing or that being. And who is more important than a devotee of the Lord? What is more important than the cow? So if one calls himself a leader, a devotee, a leader of the devotees, and cannot give proper protection to the devotees, and cannot give proper protection to the cows, then that person will have to look twice, look deeper into himself or herself, and ask some pertinent questions. Do I still have to occupy this position? Hare Krishna. Questions, comments, they're all welcome. Okay, SAHADEV, you may unmute, please.
Yeah. Yep. Sorry, I locked it because I was getting too much of it. SAHADEV, please send your mute.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, SAHADEV, Haribol, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I'll go to Srila Prabhupada. I'll go to Guranga.
Hare Krishna.
So my question is, does all protection doesn't look the same depending on the person and the activities of the person? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, continue.
The reason I'm asking because, like in the Mahabharata, when Samba caused the death of the Yadu dynasty,
yeah,
how when Krishna's family members, the only way that they could leave the planet was by killing each other, because he said they were the most, if they would have stayed, they would have been the most powerful people on the planet and they could have destroyed the planet. So I was just thinking, like when you spoke about protection, like protection looks different depending on who you are. So does protection, like Krishna allowing his family to be destroyed, was the best thing for them? Because that was, he wanted to leave the planet and he was trying to figure out how, everybody was going to leave the planet that was in his family. So was that him protecting them?
Yes, that's a very, very nice realization you share in SAHADEV. See, in this world, there are three things governing this world, which is called the three modes of material nature. And so there is the mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. So protection also falls under these three categories: mode of ignorance, mode of passion, mode of goodness. So generally, I said that Srila Prabhupada himself, that you cannot expect to have protection without causing some sort of violence. And so we see on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna came to protect the Dharma. And in the course of protecting the Dharma, violence had to be applied. And so when someone is sick, one needs treatment. And there are 3 types of treatments. There is treatment in the mode of goodness, the treatment in the mode of passion, treatment in the mode of ignorance. Treatment in the mode of goodness means that you do little to no, you cause little to no pain to the diseased person to heal him or to cure him. In other words, if one can use vibration, if one can use mantras to heal, that is healing in the mode of goodness, because you do not cause pain. Healing by vibration means that somebody generates so much power within himself and then he releases it in the palm of his hand or in the eyes, and they throw it towards the diseased person and cure or heal the individual. So we say, like in the Bible, Jesus Christ was healing people just by word. And then there is a healing in the mode of passion, where one has to take medicine. Now, the medicine may be bitter, the medicine may be sour, the medicine may be pungent, but that medicine is going to cure you or heal you. And then there is healing in the mode of ignorance, which requires causing pain, which is a surgery. And usually, when the disease is such very, very deadly, then you use force, which falls under the category of ignorance, because you have to cause pain. So Samba causing the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty, yes, it's a protection, but it's protection where I would say like it falls under the mode of ignorance. Why? Because they were doing things that were not supposed to be done by such people of such high caliber. And that is one thing. Actually, I'm happy you asked this question, because I meant to say this when I was speaking there. We belong to ISKCON, a very, very high class organization established by a very, very unique high class person, Srila Prabhupada. And if someone is the son of a president of a country, he or she acts in such a way that his or her action reflects the respect of his or her father. And so if we as disciples, as members of this great organization, do not act befittingly as Srila Prabhupada has established, it's an insult and it's a pain to Srila Prabhupada. So every person who calls himself or herself a member of ISKCON should understand this principle, that Srila Prabhupada was so caring. Srila Prabhupada was Nitya Siddha. Actually, it makes no sense to use past tense for Srila Prabhupada, because he's ever existed. He was, he is, and he forever will be. He was the leader of the movement, he is the leader, and he will forever be the leader. So it doesn't actually make sense to use past tense for Srila Prabhupada, talking about Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is so caring that when you listen to the direct disciples of Srila Prabhupada, lots of them are disciples and the devotees today simply because of how much the Prabhupada cared for them. Now, how do we care for each other? So if we are not caring for each other, it's an insult, it's a stab. We're stabbing Srila Prabhupada in the back. And we have to be very careful. And that is what Sri Upanishad describes, the killer of the soul. The killer of the soul will have to suffer so much in the hellish planets. Who is the killer of the soul? The killer of the soul is anyone who discourages or deprives another person from taking to Krishna consciousness. So when one becomes a devotee, especially, and by our words, by our actions, we let the devotee leave, we should lament, we should cry. Yes, so you're right. Protection does not simply or always means that everything is going to be so soothing. No. When someone has a boil, you're going to use some sort of prick to take out the boil. You know, when someone has a prick in the sole of his feet, you use the same prick that is causing pain in the sole of the feet to take out the prick, to take out the thorn. And so it appears it's causing pain, but it's going to give you relief in the long run. So as devotees, we have to be very careful, mindful, and know when and where to apply what. Like I said, we are not Brahmins, we are not Kshatriyas, we are not Vaishyas, we are not Sudras, and at the same time, we are all of the above. We just have to be intelligent enough to know when to apply what. I hope that helps answer your question, Sakidevi. Hare Krishna.
Is that okay, Mataji? Murasaki, are you there?
The question was answered perfectly. It was
Okay, thank
perfect.
you.
Well, thank you.
Right.
No, you
Done-
consider it perfect because you are a soft and kind-hearted lady. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu.
Oh no,
Okay.
I was gonna say, no, actually that was very interesting that the fact that Krishna is so kind that he knows what each individual person needs and not everybody needs the same thing. So it was just very interesting that I was actually thinking about that because I've been listening to the Mahabharata over and over again for the last 2 years. Because each time that I hear it, after I'm finished, I listen to it over again because there's something that you find out differently how Krishna is treating people. He treats everybody differently.
Yes.
Every single person, even the brothers of the Pandavas, even Draupadi, he treats every single person differently. Not one person does he treat the same way.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Thank you so much.
Anadinidanam Prabhu, please can you unmute and then ask a question?
Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna. Land about pronouns to assembly devotees.
Hare Krishna.
So, okay. Yeah, Shima Sahadev Prabhu, you said twice that to whom much is given, much is expected. So what do you make of this statement by senior devotee that as an organization, we are facing the crisis as a result of the much that has been given to us, we are not giving it out. What is your take on that?
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you for the question. I have a Christian background, I hope just as much as most of you on here. And I remember a parable that Lord Jesus Christ gave in the Bible. You know, says somebody, it's a parable of the talent. Now, somebody was given a talent, somebody was given like some amount to start a business. And he thought that, oh, this capital is too little. I can't make any good use of it. And then he kept it. He kept it. Maybe he dug a hole somewhere and then hid it down there in the earth. And then there was another person who was given same amount of money, which was token, very little. But he tried to make something out of it. And at the end of the day, when the borrower, when the lender came in and asked, what happened to the money I gave you? What happened to the money? He says, oh, the money was too little, so I saved it and I tried to see if I could get some money from somewhere else to add to it. The Lord said, okay, give it to me. He took it away from him and then added it to the person who tried to make something out of nothing. And in life in general, the more you give, the more you receive. The more you give, the more you receive. I've said this, I think, on this platform before, that the Christian cross, you draw it from vertical like this. You go from north to south, and then you go east to west. You do not go east to west and then north to south. That will also give you cross, but that is the wrong way of drawing the cross. Drawing the cross properly means that you first draw the north to south line, and then you cross it from left to right. And that means that as you receive the blessings and the mercy of the Lord, you distribute it, you spread it. If one has his fist clenched, how can you hold any more thing in your palm? You cannot. So if you want to receive more, then as you receive, you give it out, and then you create space so that you can receive more. So when we give what has been given to us, when we give it out, then we'll be given more. So when we do not preach, when we do not give the same knowledge that has been given to us to other people, then eventually we're going to lose it. And two, when we do not live what has been given to us to show to others how to live, then that little lifestyle that has been given to us will also be taken away from us. And that is why those who do not preach by word or by action, in spiritual life, there is no stagnation. They sink. They become more pathetic and more dangerous than those who have not even seen God. So it is actually better not to attempt to see God, get yourself involved, and become a big rascal. Again, in the Bible, it is said that there is going to be judgment. And on that judgment day, the judgment will begin from the chapel, from the church, from the house of the Lord. In other words, those of us who have been given the science, the art of God consciousness will be the first people to be questioned. And in fact, Srila Bhakti Vinod also says the same thing as Lord Jesus Christ said, that the most dangerous person in this world is a Vaishnava who pretends to be a Vaishnava. A pseudo Vaishnava is more deadly than anybody else. Just as somebody may use arms, weapons to attack somebody, to rob somebody. He's an armed robber, but it's not as dangerous as someone who robs by using the pen, right? It's a very finer way of robbing. How much can you rob by attacking somebody with guns? How much money can you steal from an individual? But with pen, you can steal so much. You can steal almost everything in this world. just by using your pen. So it is final. Those of us given this spiritual science and art, is both science and art. If we do not use the science and the art properly, we're causing harm to ourselves and causing harm to the world. And if we become the cause of the world's woes, then we should be ready to face the responsibilities also. Now, there is a difference between one who is sincerely trying his best to serve but falls short. And that reminds me of something His Grace SRIMAD Varaha shared on the West African platform, the WhatsApp platform, that if one is a leader and is making an attempt to serve but fails, Krishna understands. But if one is a leader and is not doing anything at all, that it means you did not make the effort. So how do you expect to be graced or to have mercy? But if we try and we fail, and we are subordinate, we are weak in all walks of life. You can think of anything, we are weak. But when we call upon the Lord for his intervention, then by our sincerity of attempting to serve the Lord himself will make himself available for us to serve him to his fullest pleasure. So yes, it is a responsibility to all of us as devotees, because we all have been given the science and the art of Krishna consciousness. And it is each and everyone's responsibility to live it and also give it to others. If we do not live it and give it to others, we become saboteurs. We sabotage people. Because we all know in today's world, many people do not want to attend any church. Many people do not want to affiliate themselves with any religion. Why? Because they see so many religious people who are understood to be saintly, doing the right things, but they do not do the right things. Again, I've shared this. I've had some discussions with some of my co-workers several times. And one reason they do not want to have anything to do with any religious body is that they look at what pastors do, they look at what priests do, they look at what imams do, they look at what sannyasis do, they look at what devotees do. No matter how we call ourselves being servants or worshippers of God, when they look at what those of us who claim ourselves to be God worshippers do, and compare that to those who are ordinary people, they see no difference. So what will encourage them to become God worshippers? No, they will not. And so it is very, very important. That is the responsibility we all have accepted upon our heads, being devotees, that we're going to live up to the science and the arts of Krishna consciousness. And we ourselves will have to know the science and the art, so that when someone is going wrong, we can know that this person is going wrong, and then respectfully, lovingly help remind the person. Again, I remember a story His Grace Srimad Varaha taught us one time ago when he was teaching us Namahata and Sankirtan. So he used this analogy of the goose or the geese. When they fly in the sky, they fly in unison. And whenever one deviates and goes away on its own way, as soon as it sees that it has diverted and is taking its own direction, it immediately goes back and then joins the flock. So we are human beings. We're going to fail. We're going to fall short at some point. But if we are genuine and sincere, as soon as we miss the track, as soon as we make a mistake and recognize it, we immediately come back. And as soon as we see that somebody has missed the mark, we approach him respectfully. And then tell him, hey, Prabhuji, Mataji, you know, you did this, you're not supposed to do it that way. Or may I know why you do it that way? And then help bring the person back to the fold. Because the Prabhupada did not want us to worship Krishna individually. That is why he established temples. He wanted us to worship Krishna collectively. Because individually, how much can we do? Individually, how much can we do? Me alone sitting here, how much can I do? I'm just an insignificant, crazy guy sitting here. What can I do by myself? But with all my craziness, if I attach my craziness to Salikas, to Sakis, to Anadinidanams, to Sunitas, then you being a broken calabash, me being a useless cord, he being a useless stick, when we come together, we become a veena, and we can play a very beautiful melodic music sound. But on our own, we are useless. On our own, how much can we do? We try on our own to do as much as we can do, but it makes a lot of impact when we all come together. When we all come together. So it is an individual responsibility and at the same time, collective responsibility. Individually, we have to try our own part. It's just like you have an exam. You're a student, you have an exam, and you have to study for the exam, but you have a study group. So the 4 or 5 students, you go together and then you study together. And you assume that because it's a study group, I do not study anything at all. And then I just go and then join my colleagues and then we study. They will actually kick you out. So individually, we have to prepare. And then when we meet together, you bring your resources, I bring my resources, we bring them together and it becomes wholesome. So it's very, very important. I will go back. We all as devotees should first of all understand what are the responsibilities of us being devotees. The responsibility of being a devotee is not just to eat prasadam, put on tilak, shave your head, shika, put on sari, and then walk around with your hand in a japa bead. No, all those are part of it. But the most important thing is that we live by example. We all will have to become acharyas. Srila Prabhupada is our founder acharya, but he expected all of us to become acharyas also. We have to live what we preach. We have to walk our talk. Hare Krishna, thank you for your question, Anadinidanam.
Thank you for the elaborate explanation and answer to that. And I didn't Prabhu's question. And I didn't Prabhu, I guess you're okay with the answer.
Yes, please, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay. You know, when the speaker takes a question and it goes elaborate, it reduces the numbers of hands raised because simultaneously 10 questions are answered in one. And that's what makes the difference when the professor is speaking. Thank you very much, Sadi, for this question. So any other question, comments? Actually, this whole chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam actually lays so much of emphasis on leadership, the roles of leaders, and then what are the responsibilities of leaders, qualities of a leader. But it's always said that one cannot be a leader also if he is not a good servant, a follower. So if we want a good follower, we have to be a good leader. We have to be a good follower. And there is so much to be said, but leadership begins from us because we are a prototype of what we experience. Whatever we experience in leadership is actually most of the time who we are. And then I remember also sometimes one of Slagudev's lecture, he mentioned when he talked, of course, Gurudev speaks so much on leadership. And he says that when we talk about leadership, we talk about character development in ourselves, because the more kind of a good leader we want in our system, in our society, that kind of person we have to become ourselves, because that also becomes an impetus to get the kind of a leaders that we dream. So thank you very much, Sadi, for that beautiful judicious answers to Nandini's question. So any other questions, comments? We are fortunate we have His Grace Srivas Vanachari with us today. So Prabhu, if you have some comments, some contributions, that would be very kind.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sadhu Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances.
All glories to Gurudeva, glories to Prabhupada.
Hare
I thought Bhakti Damadara Maharaj is giving a class. He didn't come, eh?
Yeah, he couldn't. I think he had written to Kusha Prabhu that he will not be able to speak today.
Speak today.
So ubiquitous Sahadev stepped in.
So Sadhu has to step in. Good.
I had to initially apologize to the devotees to tolerate me, because they see me too often. Sometimes seeing somebody too often becomes boring. More especially talking, and I'm fond of talking.
Well, it's a gift. It's a gift. It's not everybody who can talk.
Yeah.
So it's also a gift from Krishna. If we direct talking to Krishna, to spreading his glories, that's wonderful. So anyway, so thank you for your, I just joined, so I didn't hear the much of the class, but I just heard a little that you were trying to answer Prabhu's question.
Nandini's question. Yeah.
Nandini's question. So I just heard a bit of that. I think that is important. We have to take the process seriously, and we have to give it to others as well. We are what do they call it? Conduit pipes. Yeah, we have to receive the message and pass it on to others. And that is the whole system. And that is how the system has come down all the way from Krishna. So we all have to play that role. Because if we don't play that role, then how can we spread a movement, and how can we continue? How can the movement continue without the effort of its members? So all of us, we have a duty, we have a responsibility to somehow or the other imbibe this knowledge and distribute it. So I think that is a very, very relevant point, very important point. Now we all have to be examples of Prabhupada's mission. We have to be the mouthpiece of Prabhupada's mission. We all have to make an effort to share this information with others so that others can also become fortunate like us. We are fortunate to receive it, and we should also make others fortunate by sharing it.
Yeah.
So that is a beautiful point. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much
I
for
was just
your contribution.
Yeah, I was just reflecting as Prabhu was just giving that comment, because how sometimes just a little step can create a whole lot of mess in our lives. Something happened right here, 7 days now. There was just a little breach of electrical cables in the electrification of the temple wiring. And up to this moment I'm talking with you, just one electrical, we don't know up to this moment. There was a breach somewhere. We don't know exactly where it is. But there's light, but we cannot use the light for 7 good days. And we had 4 different so-called expert electricians. We even called somebody from the immigration services who is a top electrician person from the immigration. And still up to this moment, they couldn't trace it. And they've been trying. And these are good experts in their field. And this is just as a result of just one, maybe some rat passes through the roof and there's some wire touches some wire or whatever it is. So this afternoon, I was just looking when the last guy who came this afternoon, after trying all his effort, he couldn't do anything and he was leaving. So I just sat down as I was just reflecting. I said, this is how sometimes our lives could be so complicated. And when we look at leadership, the moment there is a little deviation from Krishna's plan, then everything becomes so clumsy, topsy. And then for maybe many lifetimes, we continue struggling and then we continue struggling. And when we look at the world today, and even our society that we look at, we see that so many challenges are there. But this is just a little deviation that has created this situation. And then just as I'm looking at this situation, it's taken so long to rectify, even up till now, even when we finally detected that, okay, this is the problem, but we can't even get to control, even when we suddenly have so-called experts. And I was just reflecting on this, that how Krishna consciousness is so wonderful that Gurudev used to say that we should just be always constantly attentive, that a little inattentiveness can mess up the whole of our life in Krishna consciousness. So it's such an amazing thing that leadership is such a simple thing, easy to do. And Lord Vishnu himself, he has exemplified it, but we have so much of a complicated situation globally just because of little deviation from Krishna's plan. I was just thinking about it and I was saying, let me share that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's due to the fact that sometimes we position ourselves on a pedestal that we are not there yet. See, I think we already treated that. We discussed that, I think in chapter 14 of Canto 1, where Arjuna went and visited Krishna in Dwaraka. When he came back, Maharaj Yudhishthira was asking him so many questions. And I was actually surprised how Maharaj Yudhishthira was asking Arjuna, how was Krishna faring? Maharaj Yudhishthira knows that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So does that make sense to ask how Krishna is faring? Doesn't make sense, right? But it does make sense. It does make sense that you showing loving, caring concern of the individual. And that's why I asked His Holiness Kavachandra Swami Maharaj yesterday, sometimes like I said, when I was little, I used to think that pregnant women don't need to eat because their stomach is already protruded, they're already full, you know. And then as I started growing up, I realized, oh no, that is something else, you know. So sometimes we are of this unfortunate mindset that as long as we say this person is a sannyasi, this person is a guru, of course, they are very advanced devotees. But as soon as we say the sannyasi, he doesn't need to eat. It's not a body. It does not depend on your food that you cook in here. But that is wrong conception, you know. It's a very, very bad misconception. We have to care for the totality of the people, of the person. And sometimes we expect too much than what is possible, you know. We do not have to expect people to everywhere to light fire by mantra. How many people can do that? But that was a common practice in different ages. So let us just know how we have to live in this age as prescribed by the scriptures and just live it. You know, we are sadhana bhaktas, but sometimes we want to compare ourselves to devotees who do not need to perform any sadhana. There are many devotees who do not need to perform any sadhana. And when we begin to compare ourselves to them, we putting ourselves in a very difficult situation. No? These Pandavas, they didn't have to perform any sadhana. They were eating meat. They were not vegetarians. So you say, oh, look at it. Look at these Pandavas. They are the dearest devotees of Lord Krishna. They were with Krishna, and they were not meat eaters. They were meat eaters. So I'm also going to eat meat. Is that going to work? Like Mother Saki's question, what may be good for Mr. A may not be good for Mr. B. And so Krishna gives protection to each and every one accordingly. Maybe my protection Krishna needs to give me is to cause me to have COVID, so that I will be sick, I will not be able to go to work, and that way Krishna protects me by preventing me from getting an auto accident. So let us just learn to live by what has been given to us by our acharyas and our senior devotees, and let us try our utmost best. We leave the results to Krishna. We leave the results to Krishna. We don't have to become too much attached to the results. If we become more focused on doing what is supposed to be done, that is the most important thing.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Sahadev. So there are no hands up.
Yes.
I think devotees are satisfied with your lecture. You know, when a professor gives lectures or class, people get satisfied. They don't have to ask too many questions. So I can understand.
No.
Don't worry. You're all satisfied by Friday's presentation. Thank you so much. I was just, before we round up, I was just remembering one pastor, Srila Prabhupada, when you were speaking, just your last comment. You know, I think it was Giriraj Maharaj when they were building Ramana Vrindavan Temple.
Okay.
No, Ramana Reti.
Okay.
And the cement dealers were cheating Giriraj Maharaj. And then Prabhupada came, and Prabhupada was very angry, was very disturbed. And he said, Prabhupada, why are you so disturbed? You're supposed to be the Prabhupada. So why? Prabhupada said, why will I not be disturbed? They're stealing my money. So sometimes, yes, you're right. sometimes we think that, okay, someone is big in this position, attain this level, and then there shouldn't be some, there will always be. So it's interesting. So thank you all devotees for being here. We thank you so much for participating in today's Bhagavatam class. So we'll encourage you to join again tomorrow at the same time, at the same place. But before we go, let us all at this moment do our normal daily ritual. Let us kindly all unmute. Let us loudly chant a powerful application mantra to appreciate His grace, Srimad SAHADEV Prabhu, for taking this service abruptly.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sandhyascha kripa sindhya ivacha Navyo Vaishnavo Namaha.
Jai. Srimad SAHADEV Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai. Nitai Prabhupada.
Hari Hari Bol.